Geminis, I really see that a lot of you are very much so well off in life. Let's get into it. You have the Three of Wands, the Ace of Wands, the Devil. I see that a lot of you Geminis ultimately, you're getting, you know, you come to grips with certain things, right? The idea that some people are not really going to always be able to understand you. And that level of understanding is one of the things that you really need in order to be in a relationship with somebody. But a lot of you Geminis have come to realize that not everybody is going to be able to understand you and what it is that you need, right? They're not going to ask you. They're not going to really take the time to find out what it is that you really need in order to be secure, in order to be in a relationship with you, in order to actually get to know you Geminis in and out. And because of this, a lot of you Geminis, this is actually freeing. This is actually a good thing, because then this will mean, right, because you were here at one point in time, right? You Geminis were right here, right, caged, where you felt like you couldn't really express. The problem with Gemini is y'all know a little bit of what it is that you want, but what you want is for someone to become invested and to actually take the time to get to know you, like I've been talking about. But the problem is that you don't want to necessarily say it, because you feel like if you have to say that to somebody, 9 chances out of 10 they're probably not really good for you, a good mix for you. So that's freeing, because a lot of you Geminis, right, with the Devil, a lot of you Geminis realize, right, ironically, that since most people are not going to actually give you that much attention to detail, you realize that those are not the quality of the people that you really want. So the Empress and the Page of Cups represents, so you realize that a lot of people do a lot of fronting. And what I mean by that is, you Geminis are really learning that, you know, the more the more relationship experience you have, is the more you Geminis really understand that most people do not have that, right? They don't really learn from their mistakes. They don't really actually take the time to become more well-rounded. It's very much so still based upon only what it is that they want, selfishly. And that can oftentimes really end up being a disservice to everybody involved, you, to themselves. So again, I just see that a lot of you Geminis with the Page of Cups, you just see it for that, right? But the Strength card now, right? The Strength card now represents, so this is empowering, because, and this is the thing that I've been trying to get the zodiac signs here on my channel, all of them, to really understand. You got to be able to think outside of the box. And what I mean by that is, people who come here, they when I tell them that things don't necessarily work out, they look at it and they go, well, what do you mean X, Y, Z? That's bad, right? It's like, no, because what happens is, you're in a position where people, when they start off trying to date, everybody is nervous, right? But then when you date a couple of times, and then you find out, oh, a lot of people faking, a lot of people fronting. And then when you find out the people who actually are fronting, and the quality that you thought they were on fronting, and they're not who you thought they were, it is freeing, because the same pretty, handsome, whomever, whatever, they turn out to be dorks. That takes the pressure off of your shoulders, because now you Geminis have a better understanding, because of your relationship experiences, to understand, like, oh, this person fronts like this out in the streets, or that archetype, right? Like that type, they're fronting more than likely out in the streets, but then behind closed doors, they're really just as scared and as timid and as a punk at heart. And this is what I mean when I say that it's freeing. It's freeing because you Geminis went from you trying to approach people, and maybe that archetype of people will turn you down, and they'll turn you down disrespectfully. You'll feel a certain kind of way, right? when you were younger and you didn't know any better. Then when you get some more experience up and you begin to date, and then you realize a lot of those people are not as smooth as they try to make it seem. They're not as cool as they're trying to make it seem. They're not as productive as they're trying to make it seem. You're able to see through now, pass through the smoke screen of the fact that a lot of people who put on this big front, they're really not as confident. They're really not as powerful. They're really not as deep as you think that they actually are. And that's the reason why it's freeing for a lot of you Geminis. Because a lot of you Geminis are starting, right, with the Strength card and the Four of Cups. A lot of you Geminis are starting to wake up and realize that a lot of people are doing a lot of fronting. So because of the fact that they're doing all this fronting, it's like they are trying to impress other people because they really don't want other people to know that they have no relationship experience and they scared in the mug. So the Hierophant now, the Fool and the Knight of Pentacles is about, well, the Hierophant is about how, but the way that a lot of people have tried to make it seem like in the past for you Geminis is you're beneath them. But see, here's the catch-22. You Geminis now, the Fool card, you called their bluff, like, okay, let's see if you really fly like that. And come to find out, they're really not. The Knight of Pentacles represents, this is what it is to a lot of those, you know, people that make it seem like they're too cool for school or they're too fly to do this or to that, have to do. They're shallow. So they really don't have any kind of real substance most of the time to actually give. This is part of the reason why the dating pool is so dysfunctional sometimes. It's because the majority of people are actually dealing with a complete mismatch. The majority of people on the planet who call themselves dating are at a complete mismatch with one another. Because the shallow people and the scaredest people on earth are the ones, the most shallow and the scaredest people on earth are the ones trying to act like they're the bravest most of the times. And that's not really even the case. So let's clarify the Fool. So you testing them now. You testing those people to find out now. Because a lot of you Geminis, right, with the Fool, you starting to be able to test those people to see that a lot of that stuff is smokescreen. With all of this replacing you, they replacing you, but then they still need you around as a confidant, as a friend. They still calling you. And you're like, why? And it's like, what are you doing, right? Well, what's up with this? And again, all of that stuff is fronting because they can't make it work with anybody else. They're trying their hardest to scale up and be with somebody who's more handsome, prettier, has more money or has a better body, and it's not working out. So to clarify the Fool, you have the Hermit, Queen of Cups, Ten of Swords, the Magician, Virgo, right? Gemini, right? So again, so you realize now that a lot of that shallowness that a lot of people had with you, there's really nothing to fear. There's really nothing to be more specifically impressed over, because it's like, you know that 9 chances out of 10, they're trying to intimidate you by trying to make it seem like they're so important, because that's what it is. They're trying to intimidate you by trying to make you feel like they're so important that they've got some big things going on and they don't roll in the same circles with you and all of this type of stuff. And it's like, it's totally an illusion. It's totally an illusion, because back then, the rich individuals and people who are old enough to know, they can let me know in the comment section if I'm lying about this, because back then, right, I want to say, let's just say in the 80s, you know, back then in the 80s on earlier, the rich individuals used to live right down the street from the people who don't have 2 nickels to rub together. So this fronting and all of this trying to showboat and trying to be chic now is really it's kind of played out now, to be honest with you. The Ten of Swords and the Magician represents, so as a result, you Geminis understand now that people will do something terrible to you and be totally disrespectful, but then at the same time, they can actually be a success with the people that they spend so much time trying to chase after. So this is something that a lot of you Geminis really have to keep in mind as you out here dating. Do not get bent out of shape about merely what it is that your eyes see, because nine chances out of 10 it's not real. So still continue to date, and if someone gives you a difficult time and they acting like they too much better than you and all this other type of stuff, I mean, just take that with a grain of salt. Don't get offended, and just begin to talk to somebody else. But that's pretty much it. Comment on the video, like the video, subscribe. Peace.